instructors, Professor Kim back with another great game that you can incorporate into your classroom after you watch this video. Much like my previous Professor Kim regarding Wits and Wagers, this game that I'm sharing with you today is similar in the fact that you don't necessarily have to be exact to earn points, and that can be really encouraging for students. This game focuses on geography and history, and it is Terra. Welcome to my Terra overview. After this, I'll jump straight into the student tutorial section and give you all those details that you're wanting to know about how to play this game and then how to help your students enjoy the game. Firstly, Terra is a game that exercises students' knowledge of history, geography, and culture. There's a wonderful board in the game along with 150 cards that asks students to evaluate information, and they do that on one of 4 different measurements. There's the map, year, length and distance, and number. Each one of these cards will ask students to identify 3 of those 4 measurements. Players have cubes, and they're going to use these cubes to identify the places on the board that they think are the right answer or close to the right answer. And that's what I like about this game. You can get pretty close and still get points. That's called adjacency. This game really works problem solving, critical thinking, evaluation, and analysis skills, along with just rote information and knowledge about history and geography. This is also a social game. Students will kind of bounce off of other students' ideas and their thoughts, and they'll react to them based on turn order. It's a really clever game that, yes, it might look like a party game, but really there are so many different skills and abilities and wonderful things in this game that I know you'll have a great time sharing with your students. Hi students, Professor Kim here, and I can't wait to teach you how to play Terra. First though, I'm going to give you the overview and then the setup and how to play. Next, I'm going to zoom into the board itself and I'll run through a turn example, then I'll offer you some tips and suggestions. So to get started, Terra is a game that exercises your knowledge about geography, culture, and history. There's a wonderful board, as you can see here, that has all of these different scales of measurement. The first is the map itself. You'll see the entire world, and there's a little compass in the center that divides it into quadrants. The other is the year, and that's the green banner. The length and distance is the blue banner, and the number is in the orange banner at the bottom. Everyone takes their colored cubes. I like green, I always play with green. So I take my 6 cubes and I place one of them over here at the point marker. So I have 5 cubes in my hand. After that, you're going to set up any number of cards, preferably a large stack, inside of this holder. This holder down here is going to block the answers because you can read the top, but you don't want to find out what the answer is on the bottom until you've resolved the round. So it's really important not to lift the cards up or peek down in there to see the answer. Once you've done that, you're just going to select a start player. That person is going to just look at this card, read it, and tell everybody what measurements you're going to use your cubes to note on the map. Again, there are 4, but every card only asks you to identify 3 different measurements, and sometimes they actually give you the amount. In this case, my example is signing of the Declaration of Independence. That's the card. That's the fact that we're looking for. Here are the measurements. 1 area, a year, and a number of signers. So we have this information that we need to identify on the board. In turn order, each player will place a cube onto the board in any of those 3 measurement tracks, or they'll pass. Now, the reason you want to pass is because at the end of every round, If you made a correct guess or an adjacent correct guess, you get that cube back. You also just get a cube back from any guess that you made that wasn't accurate. After clockwise guesses goes around, it comes back to the start player and they get to make another guess if they want. And we go clockwise, continuing around the table, and you can make a third guess if you want. You can only put your cube in one space. That's the trick. So if I go into a particular region on the map, let's say I went into the Northeast, nobody else can pick the Northeast. They can pick the Midwest, they can pick the South, they can pick Canada, Quebec, wherever they want. They're not allowed to pick the same area. And the same goes for the measurement tracks at the bottom. If I go into the space between the years 1750 and 1800, no one else is allowed to go into that space. They can go to the adjacent space on either side of my space, but they're not allowed to go into my exact space. That's why turn order matters. Every single time we have a new round, which there are 6, every person gets to be the start player. So everybody gets that first player advantage of picking the very first space of one of those 3 measurement markers on the board. Once everyone has passed and it's gone all the way around the table, we resolve the card by pulling it out and then looking at those answers and evaluating the board. Every player that has a correctly placed cube gets 7 points, and anyone who was adjacent to the correct answer gets 3. Then we'll move on to the next round. I think it's about time for us to zoom in on the map and go through a practice round together. Alright, so we're starting with the exact same example, signing of the Declaration of Independence. Since I get to start the game, I'm going to say that I am pretty sure I know the location of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, so I'm going to place my cube right here into the northeast. Nobody else can go there. The next player is going to go, and they want to have the correct answer, at least what they think is the correct answer, points for the time. And so they're going to put it on the year track between 1750 and 1800. The next player says, I'm not sure how many people signed it, and I'm not exactly sure what I should do other than maybe get some of those adjacency points. And so they're going to put their marker here. Purple is going to go on the other side of blue in the 1800 to 1820. Red says, I'm pretty sure that the Northeast is right, but the South might actually get part of Virginia or some of those lower coastal states, and so it might actually be in the South. It comes over to yellow, and yellow says, I'm going to take my first attempt at the number. I think that there were between 20 and 50 people who signed it. Green is going to play again, and green's just going to stick on the location. That's what they're really comfortable with. Blue thinks that maybe it was 10 to 20 people. White goes, and they say, I want to put mine in the Midwest. Purple says, I'm passing. Red thinks that perhaps this area kind of comes right up next to the Northeast, and it might fit. Yellow says, I want to play here between the 50 and the 100. Green wants to pass. Blue thinks perhaps it's 5 to 10. White wants to pass. Red thinks that maybe it's 100 to 200. Probably not, but it might get adjacency points. And then from that point on, everybody has passed. So we're going to reveal the card, and we're going to evaluate who was correct and who was close to correct. So we take a look at the answer, and it says the area is in the Northeast. So that means that green is going to get their cube back, and they're going to receive 7 points on the track for that. each one of these cubes was adjacent. So each one of those cubes go back to their owner and receive 3 points. So green gets 3. Red gets a total of 6, 3 and 3. White gets 3 points. And now we're going to evaluate the year. The year was 1776. That means that blue is right. They're going to get 7 points and their cube back. These two were both adjacent, and so they get 3 points each. White, 1, 2, 3. Purple. On the board, purple. Yeah. Now we're going to look at the number of signers. There were 56 signers. That means that between 50 and 100 is the correct answer. That is 7 points for yellow. On the board, yellow. And yellow also gets 3 points for being adjacent, as well as red. Blues get to go over here to the pool, the general pool, and blue will receive one of those back at the end of this round. So these each get 3 points. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So after the first round, everyone's got some points working towards more. And we put this card in the back of the box. Blue is going to receive one of their 2 cubes back. And now we start the round by passing the first player and having that player read the card. Okay, time for some tips and suggestions. First thing, some cards actually have a highlighted quadrant of the compass that shows up on the card itself. So if you look at the card and you see in the top corner one of those quadrants highlighted, that's giving you a hint that it's going to be in that region to some degree. So if there's a country or an ocean that crosses those compass lines, the majority of it's going to show up in the highlighted region. Another thing is, don't forget about the adjacency bonus. Somebody else might go before you and pick the space that you want to go in. You can't go there, but you can go adjacent to it. An adjacency bonus gives you 3 points, and that's huge, particularly when you have a couple of them. You only have 5 guesses, and you only get correct or adjacent guesses that come back to you as cubes for your next round. So make sure that you don't expend all of your cubes in one round if you don't think that you're putting them on either the correct answer or adjacent to the correct answer. Lastly, if a lot of people are going in one particular measurement, let's say the map or the year, find that third measurement and take your best stab at that one, because you might get the 7 points or the 3 points for being adjacent to it, because nobody else was giving it a try. This game is customizable in that you can select the cards that you want your students to review. You can also create your own content, much like the Wits and Wagers I talked to you about. You can ask your students the trivia questions that you want to ask them, and then provide the measurements available. You can also give them the harder cards. There are red outlined cards that come with the box, and those are intermediate level. And so if you really want to challenge your students, you can put those cards into the game. You can also always make it to where students can guess as many times as they want, and then they get all of their cubes back at the end of each round, not just one. I also think you can do partners and teams with this game, and that's another way to extend the player limit, which is 6. You can have those teams exchange questions that they wrote themselves, and then afterwards find out how things went. It gets everyone involved, and that's another thing I appreciate. I never like seeing students who are lingering in the background or hanging back and feeling shy about asserting their own opinion or their own thoughts about something. And Terra gets them literally placing cubes onto the board, which is their assertion of what they think the answer is. Thank you so much for watching this video on how to bring Terra into your classroom successfully. As you can see, history and geography are the main keys, but so are problem solving, critical thinking, and group play. I'm thoroughly impressed with the 150 cards that are included in the game, and those are double-sided, so you have 300 things that your students can measure in a variety of ways. This game is kind of endlessly giving when it comes to student content and student engagement.